Welcome back to Random Tek. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at one of the more unique items in my collection. The Mac cable check. Why? Because it's random. The Mac cable check was made by a collaboration of two companies, Weidmüller and Paladin Tools. It was created as a quicker way to test a variety of Mac computer connectors. Not only could it test cables to make sure they were functioning correctly, but you could also use it to verify the functionality of cables, as some cables may look the same but are wired differently. For example, the Macintosh 128K and 512K used a proprietary keyboard cable with a standard RJ11 connector, but two wires were flipped. Plugging in an incorrect cable into the Mac could cause serious harm to the computer. Using the Mac cable check, you could verify the pinout of the cables. I wasn't able to find too much information on this specific product, but I guess there really isn't too much info needed. A trademark was applied for it on June 24th, 1995, and the product probably came out sometime shortly after. I was able to find two magazine ads for it in 1996 and 1997, selling it at $159.95 and $169 respectively. Interestingly, the two websites that still list the product, although discontinued years ago, have it at a very similar price of $149.95. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the box or manual for it. I can't seem to find the specific manual for this archived online, so if anyone does have it, please comment below. On the front side, we see ports for 8-pin and 4-pin DIN connectors. Moving downwards, we see ports for Centronics 50 cables and DB15 and DB25 connectors. Lastly, we find at the bottom DB9, DB15 and DB25 connectors. 3 buttons are also found, which include a selector on the right for the maximum connector size of the cable being tested. In the middle is the actual test button, which will cycle through each pin each time you press it. And on the left side is a button with 2 arrows. Pressing this in conjunction with the test button will reverse the test sequence, moving to the previous pin instead of the next pin. On the top is 2 connectors for coaxial cables, 2 for RJ45 cables, which will also be used for testing RJ11 and RJ12 cables, a connector for HDI30 cable, and one for a 5-pin DIN cable. On the bottom of the unit, we find an on and off switch, underneath are 4 rubber feet and a 9-volt battery compartment. I have a few cables which we will be testing today. The first is a 8-pin DIN serial cable, which we will plug one end into each connector. Turning the device on lights up the top 2 lights, which will test the cable shared. Since we see them lit on both sides, that means they have a proper connection. Pressing the test button moves through each pin, showing a proper connection for each. On pin 9, it only displays 1 light, and that is because in this case there is no pin 9 for this type of cable. You can see that if I hold down the inverse button while hitting test, the lights move upwards as it reverses the sequence. The next cable is an RJ45 Ethernet cord, which we will plug both sides into the top. You'll notice that this type of cable does not have a shield, hence why only one light comes on. Testing all other pins, we found another good working cable. Again, this cable does not have a 9th pin. Next, I wanted to test a coaxial cable. The only problem is, the unit uses a BNC connector type, which I don't have. Mine has a quick release star connector, which I can push them somewhat on, but it won't have a complete connection. As you can see, it only is able to test the shear in this case. I also have a bit more unique cable that has a DB25 connector on one end and a 8-pin DIN on the other. We will have to change the cable selector to 25 now. Now a lot of these pins don't end up connecting to anything, which isn't too surprising. Some pins, on the other hand, connect to multiple other pins. I've never actually used this cable before, so I'm not sure if it is properly functioning or not, but it is interesting to see. I also flipped the cable around and tested it again, which gave pretty much the same result but was mirrored. Lastly, I have an RJ11 phone cable. I was interested in this as I had no idea you could plug one of these cables into an RJ45 port. I always thought it just wouldn't fit or wouldn't have a proper connection. Testing it, we see only pass through on pins 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that is because our RJ11 cable only has 4 pins as opposed to 8 pins, which the RJ45 cable has. So what happened to the companies and the product? Well, it seems somewhere along the way, Weidmüller and Paladin split. Weidmüller still continues to operate to this day, creating various tools. Paladin Tools was acquired by Green-Lee Communications around late 2007. In early 2019, Green-Lee was then purchased by private investors and the name changed to Tempo Communication, which still produces tools under the Paladin Tools brand. You can actually see the timeline of the company via the PC cable check along the years. Starting off with the Weidmüller and Paladin Tools collaboration, changing to just Paladin Tools, and getting updated when Green-Lee took over. That concludes another episode. Let me know in the comments if and where you have ever used one of these or something similar. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.